Hello and welcome, my thumb twiddlers. How you doing today? It's Chris, and we're talking about all of the heroes in the game. This is as of the release, though. If there's any new heroes, which it looks like there's going to be at least two more, I will probably talk about them in a future video, but obviously they're not going to be in this one. I'm going to go over the paid heroes first, because I know that's what you guys are coming here for, right? I know, I get it, I understand you guys, and that's why I'd appreciate it if you pressed a like on the video for me, man. I'd really appreciate that, so do it for me. I should also mention that I've gotten all of my heroes up to level 10 already, and I've played with them, but I reset my game. So even though it looks like, oh man, Chris, you haven't even played with these guys. What do you mean you know what you're talking about? I do. I've played with them all the way up to level 10 and messed around with them a lot. So I at the very least, reasonably know what I'm talking about for all of the heroes. So, Margosa, we're going to talk, basically the way I want to do this is I want to talk about the stats really quick. I'm going to talk about the abilities very, very quickly, just touch on them, and then talk about my overall feeling on Margosa and whether she's worth it to buy. And this is especially true for if you're only going to buy one hero in the game. Which one should you go for? And obviously it depends on your price point and stuff like that. Most of the time, people are just going to say, screw it, if I'm buying something, I'm going to either buy the Doom Tank or Berusad, right? That is true, but if you're, running low on money or something like that, you might want to stick with one of these three. So I'll talk about which one I think is my favorite. So Margosa is her health is very high. Her armor is actually pretty reasonable. It says it's low, but it's not too bad. Her attack is very high, and her cooldown is very high. So ends up being a very solid addition to your team. She's got a bat, which can do pretty consistent damage and even stronger than the Ravens on the crossbow tower. She's got a grouped cloud attack, which makes people miss. She's got a stun and a teleporting stun. She's also got the ability to heal up with every single basic attack, which is probably the best aspect of her entire thing. And then her ability ends up being okay, because it makes her regular attack stronger, but then she doesn't do any of the other, she doesn't do these other two attacks over here, which ends up sucking just a little bit. I really like Margosa. I think because she's basically unkillable and she's going to do consistent, constant damage. She has a bunch of fun, different abilities. She ends up being a really good hero. I really like her. If she's your base point right here, I would say go for Margosa. All right, Mortimus. Health terrible, armor terrible, magic high. All right, and cooldown medium. So you're going to tell he's going to do magic damage, right? What he can do is he can control people for a second, but it basically just makes them walk the other way. It doesn't really do anything kind of like the mausoleum or something like that. He does some group damage. I think most heroes have some sort of group damage thing. I don't understand what this does, to be honest. Makes them lose some of the resistances, but it just doesn't really help out that much, or at least not as much you might think. But this is where Mortimus ends up being really, really good. Zombies. Anybody that you kill while next to him raises up a zombie. You can control up to 4 zombies at a time, and a mega zombie, the rotten bodyguard over here. So as far as pure damage goes, it says it's really, really high, but he really doesn't do as much damage as you think, because his attack speed is pretty slow. The nice thing about it is that when he does attack, he slurps health back onto himself, so it's unlikely for him to die if he's sitting there doing ranged attack, but you can never, ever, ever let anybody get up in your business. If you do, he's worthless and complete and utter garbage. Again, the main thing that makes him good is just being able to make a big group of zombies and zombie bodyguards over here that can just keep people all in one spot while your other heroes just do damage, or your other towers just do damage. And usually you want to combine him with some sort of furnace or artillery type tower. I don't really like him that much, mostly because he's just too squishy, and I feel like his regular damage is just a little bit too low. Even though he can stall quite a bit, I don't like that out of a hero, or at least not in Kingdom Rush Vengeance. I don't know. There's just a feeling about it. I just don't like that much. Tramond. I like him because he ends up doing a lot of damage in a fun and interesting way. I think that's the cool thing about him. He's just throwing things all the time. He's running around. He can bounce around to really fast on the screen. So he ends up being a very useful tool to your team. Very versatile. He still can't do any hand attack, though. If you let anybody get up in his business, he dead. He gone. He ain't gonna do nothing. In fact, you basically take away the entirety of his attack. It's like, if you're in a gunfight and then all of a sudden somebody whips out, an airsoft gun. You're like, oh, well, that's not gonna do much. Basically what's going on here. Health pretty low, armor pretty low, damage is very high, and cooldown is very low, so it ends up shooting very, very quickly and doing a lot of damage overall. One of the best damage doers in the game. He's got a bunch of different abilities over here. Puts boom bots on there. His Nitro Rush, where he just attacks really, really quick for a little while. He's got a flashbang, which means he stuns people. And then we've got some missile damage, which actually does. I think it's. I don't know if it's got infinite range, but at least a lot of range. And then he's got his ability over here, Bombageddon, which he tosses a box on the road, and a bunch of bombs kind of just walk out and do group damage to people, which ends up being very, very useful. And then his ability, just in case you guys were curious, he jumps to anywhere on the screen. I don't mind him as a hero. I think he's pretty fun to use. I think that's the main thing about him is he's fun. He's fun and he's good. So if you wanted to buy a hero, Tramond would not be that bad of a hero to buy. All right. Jigu. All right, Jigu's kind of weird. So the main thing about Jigu is that he's really frickin' slow. So if you ever let anybody like he's gonna be slower than I think almost every unit besides random tanky magic guys that are walking in. He's gonna be slower than everybody. So if anybody ever sneaks past you, you're never gonna catch up to him. You got to use reinforcements and crap like that to stun him instead of Jigu. But that being said, he's basically unkillable. I know that I said Margosa was unkillable, but this guy's even more unkillable. All right, I mean, I wouldn't even. I don't think he would even die against most of the bosses. You know, I've never actually had him fight a boss though. I should say that because I don't really like him that much. Overall, he's pretty cool. He's pretty fun, but that slow movement pace just makes it so I feel like I'm playing. I'm not playing a game anymore. I'm not having fun with him. He's just too freaking slow. I wish he could turn into an ice ball and roll places, and that would just make him so much freaking better. I would have loved Jigu if I could roll places, but that might make him a little bit too good. Just throw that out there. It might make him a little bit too good. But honestly, if you're making us have paid heroes, man, I wouldn't mind if you just gave him some ice ball action and just have some fun with him. But yeah, he's basically unkillable. He's got unlimited health. It's like 1,000 health, 900 health, and then he also heals up the entire time too, so it's not going to happen. Armor's pretty decent. Attack's pretty high, though. Look at that. Big, juicy attack. Then the cooldown is medium, so he attacks pretty slow. He's got an ice ball, which he just flings, not just in his range, but just about anywhere on the map, actually. Or just pretty gosh darn far. He inhales ice breath, doing group damage to a lot of enemies in a pretty wide range, too. It's not just like a little baby, poof, I blew some air. He actually blows some big, juicy air there. He's got the Earth Slam, which makes him jump furiously, shaking the ground, and stuns everything. Honestly, this is probably my favorite ability for this guy, so feel free to have fun with that. Just boom, boom, boom. Stunning everybody who comes in there and just doing great damage to them all. I've actually never had this happen to me. I've never had him die. So I don't even know what this looks like, but it's useless basically. So that kind of sucks. And then his ability is quite interesting. It not only slows people down, but also does a pretty good amount of damage to it. And it does it in another grouped attack damage area. So he ends up doing a pretty good amount of damage. That's like the main thing about Jigu, is if you just have one choke point on a level, and you're just going to leave him there the entire game, he ends up being pretty wonderful. One other downfall, though, is again, he cannot attack any air units, so just keep that in mind. A lot of people can't attack air units, though, so he's not like the only one in the game. Moving on, we're going to talk about the Doom Tank, which I think is probably the best hero in the game. I really like him. I think the main issue with the Doom Tank is that I said this in my other hero video, but I think he's too good. Actually, I think if you buy the Doom Tank, you might have too easy of a time playing the game. It might not be fun for you. So definitely keep that in mind. All right. But the Doom Tank has a good amount of health, a good amount of armor, a good attack, and a fast cooldown, so he's going to be killing people really freaking quick over here. He also, anytime he runs over people or moves past them, he hurts them too. Now, the weird thing about him is he actually does not stall anybody. Nobody's going to be up and hand attacking the Doom Tank. Only ranged people can hurt him. So, he's basically never going to die. I mean, unless you just have, random range units just out of range of all towers just sitting there shooting this guy, he's never going to die. He's got a bunch of different abilities over here, though. He's got homing missiles that search anywhere on the battlefield, so freaking global attack over here. He's got the ground slam, which does grouped damage to an entire area, kind of like the icicle impale over here, or the ice zone, where it just affects an entire area in the land over here. We've got the expendables, which means we pop some soldiers out that help protect the tank and fight for us. Those guys can stall, but they're actually pretty weak and end up dying quite a bit, so I don't know if they're even all that good. And then we've got a flamethrower. This is another grouped attack where we're just going to do a big flamethrower all the way around us. If we're stalling people or stunning people sort of in an area right here, boom, 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 just do some more group damage over here. And last but not least, we call a plane that tosses napalm on the screen. So another grouped attack over here, guys. Very, very nice. 3 grouped attacks, 1 stalling attack, and 1 global. Like, holy crap, that is freaking awesome right there. Doom Tank, freaking rock solid. And then Berusad. Alright, so this is the last paid hero in the game. Somebody said that I was pronouncing Berusad wrong. It's actually Berusad. So I think I'll try to say Berusad, and hopefully that's correct, but I'm bad. Berusad was a little sad for me. I think the issue is that all of his abilities are sort of bad, except for, well, I can't even say bad. All his abilities are okay, except for this Hellfire, which ends up being one of the most powerful things in the entire game. You do up to 180 damage total. I think it's 180 damage total to everybody on the screen. Maybe it's even more than that. It might be up to like 300 or something like that. The entire screen. Everybody. Like, that's insane. You can do thousands upon thousands of damage with this ability right here and use it pretty much on every single wave. It ends up being unbelievably powerful over here. But I find him not to be that fun because I don't really like most of his other abilities. I feel like they're just meh. And then his attack actually ends up, it says it's really, really strong. I don't find it to be as strong as they say it is. His cooldown doesn't seem super duper fast. It seems a little bit slower than that. And the attack really doesn't feel like it's as strong as it says it is. And I ran into one issue where I noticed that if there's other people underneath Berusad, he doesn't shoot. And to other people, it doesn't seem to be an issue, but to me, it was an issue. I didn't like that. I think you would get used to it and you'd start playing with him a little bit better, but I feel like that really hurt his ability to do any real damage. And of course, again, he also does not stall at all because he's never on the ground, he's always in the air. And he still can't even stall flying units or anything like that, which I was actually a little saddened by in this game, that flying units can't get stunned at all. I think in other games, all flying units could still get stunned, which was kind of weird. But we've got Conflagration, which means we do some damage to some enemies on the flames. We've got this thing which ends up fearing people and making them run backwards. I found it to be almost useless. The Dragon Spawn, this guy actually really sucks. He's not strong at all. He's just sort of there and does some damage, and he could, don't get me wrong, he could do some stuff. But I don't find him to be as powerful as he probably should be for one of the highest paid heroes in the game. And then the Obliterate, which does actually insta-kill an enemy, and of course that's awesome. Whenever you have any insta-kills whatsoever, it's awesome. But like I said, the main thing you're going to rely on is your Hellfire. Everything else is just sort of there. And I think the reason why they made his other abilities sort of bad is because they know that they made the Hellfire so ridiculously powerful. They were like, we can't make him too overpowered, or else there's no point to even playing the game. It's not even going to be difficult for people if their hero is going to kill everybody by himself, you know? So it makes sense that all these other abilities end up not being too great. So as far as all of the heroes are concerned, if we just compile them all together, we've got, 6 of them. I'm just going to do... I actually don't remember the prices of them totally. I think it's like 3, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 6. I think so. Maybe even 7, 7 on these guys. Well, if I had to pick between the top 2 or the top 3, I'd definitely pick the Doom Tank. I think the Doom Tank is probably the best tower and best hero in the game. He's fun to use, he's cool, he has some fun abilities and everything. Again, the only downfall is that he's almost too good. So, and he's pricey too, don't get me wrong. I mean, $7 is not anything to mess around with, more expensive than the game. And then if I just kind of compile these guys together as well, I would probably go with Margosa. I feel like she's one of those heroes where she's like slightly better than the free heroes, but she doesn't end up making the game like unfun or anything like that. She's just you could still have people sneak through and still have bad things happen to you if you're using Margosa. And you don't really have to micro with her all that much. You just kind of put her in a spot and just let her go to town. Whereas with Mortimus and Tramond, you really have to make sure that nobody gets up in their business. If they do, they're dead. So I find that to be a little bit troublesome because I do have some people sneaking through every once in a while. Instead of just being like, oh, okay, that's no problem, they end up just dying or sucking it up and stop attacking for a while, which ends up causing even more havoc. So that's my problem with these two guys, but if I had to pick between the two, I would go with Tramond. Definitely my top 3 paid heroes are Margosa, Tramond, and the Doom Tank. I don't like Mortimus all that much. Jigu's okay, but he ends up being too slow for my liking, and Berusad ends up being a little weird for my liking. I feel like his ability's too good, and everything else is just sort of meh. So that's my opinion on all the heroes, as far as paid heroes go. But what about the free heroes? Alright, so we've got the Orca Gladiator here. This is Farouk. He's a very average hero all the way down the line here. Average health, average attack, average defense, average cooldown. He's pretty decent against, regular guys. He's pretty decent at attacking group stuff. He ends up stalling a little bit, which is nice. He's got quite a few units that he can pop down on the screen. Basically, he can get these little goblins that pop out, and they can also put down the warmongers, which throw spears at things. I think his biggest weakness is, of course, he can't attack any flying units at all. The only way to do it was with the warmongers here, and I don't know if everybody's going to want to be using warmongers to kill flying units all the time. It's just a little difficult to do. I like him, though. I feel like he's quite usable, especially if you have like one choke point on a level where you just pop Farouk down and just let him go to town. But if you've got a bunch of different areas where you have to put Farouk down and move him around all over the place, it's not going to be all that wonderful. Azra's probably my favorite free hero. I find her to be the most useful. Her biggest weakness is actually quite similar to why I didn't really like Mortimus and Tramond. If you aren't ranged attacking somebody, she ends up being very useless. She can't do any of her other ranged attacks. She can't do any of her other abilities over here, except for the shield. And then she starts doing, instead of doing like a nice bow attack, which does a pretty solid amount of damage, I don't even know, let's just guess 50 damage, right? She'll do only 5 damage with her sword. It's just like, oh my god, like 10 times less damage. It's just not worth it to sword people at all. So, I think the main thing about her is that she has the ability to teleport, though. That has saved my butt so many times, to be able to teleport anywhere on the screen. Micro to make sure I lose 0 lives instead of losing just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. She saves my butt every single time. She's always been there for me, and that's why I like her the most, is mainly that teleport, but also be able to do a decent amount of damage to pretty much everybody. So definitely keep her behind a barracks unit or something like that. Keep her behind some other units that are going to protect her, and she'll be able to help you out a lot. Olok's actually kind of interesting because I don't know why, but I just don't really like him that much. He's not bad. He's actually probably better than Azra, actually. As far as just like damage is concerned and all that other stuff, he's probably better. I just don't like him as much, you know? I don't know. I don't understand why. If you look at his stats, though, health is really low, armor's really low, magic's kind of low, and then cooldown's kind of low. Like, he looks terrible on paper. But when you look at all of his abilities over here, they end up being rock frickin' solid, man. They're all really good. There's really no bad ones, actually. The teleport is not one of my favorites, though. I feel like that's probably his biggest weakness over here. Some people are saying that they like the teleport because you can line people up for soul crushers and such, but that's not really my... Yes, you can, but I feel like most of the time when I'm teleporting things, I'm keeping people from sneaking through my defense or something. You know, that's usually when I'm doing it. I'm like, oh crap, people are sneaking through. Let's teleport, get them out of there. And I should also mention that Azra, one of the reasons why she ends up being pretty awesome is actually this Toxic Rain over here. Dealing 200 grouped damage to everybody in that area. And you could get, it's a pretty decent sized group over there. You can get a lot of damage out of this thing. If you use it properly, combine people together, or put some reinforcements in the way or whatever to block people together, and just bam, throw some poison rain on those guys and just take them down. So if I had to choose which one I actually wanted to use most of the time, I'd go with Azra, but honestly, all 3 of them are actually quite decent in the game. There is no hero in this entire hero loadout where I'm like, that guy is just bad and unusable. In no way, shape, or form is that even remotely possible. All of them are pretty decent heroes. I personally like Azra the most as the free hero. I probably like the Doom Tank the most as my free hero, or as my paid hero. I'd go Doom Tank, Margosa, and then I'd go for Tramond third. Those are my top 3 here, guys. Or top 4, or whatever. I think I've done a pretty good job explaining this stuff to you guys. If you need any more information, feel free to go back and watch my individual tower series where I talk about individual hero series, where I talk about each individual hero and actually show them off in the game as well. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And of course, have a super duper delicious day.